You folks in Burrillville and beyond who are concerned about the power plant, we've got some answers coming from the company tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
John Niland is the development director for Invenergy, the company that is crashing into Rhode Island and ruining everybody's life. Well, that's what some people would say. The governor would say this is a great investment and it's going to help our electric bills. And so somewhere between those two concepts probably lies the truth. We will talk about it. Last week, we had the folks from Burrillville in here who made their case about why this is a bad idea. It's about time we check with the company and see what they're thinking. So welcome to my State of Mind. It is great to have you aboard. Let's go to the rundown and check on some of the issues of the day. And let me just say this. I don't understand what Donald is doing. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, because we're in the reverence phase now. As he begins to dominate this primary season, we're supposed to bow, genuflect, Mr. Trump, whatever. Headline. Okay, so double, triple, quadruple down, Donald, because that's just kind of what you do. I think we need to give him if we give him a prompter, if we give him a teleprompter, maybe he'll be on some message that won't end up having him put his own gun into his big toe come November, because this conversation about women, well, you saw it the other night, right?
Well, I think the only card she has is the woman's card. She's got nothing else going. And frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote. The only thing she's got going is the woman's card. And the beautiful thing is women don't like her, okay?
Near this Mary Pat Christie, who's behind you, who thinks what you're saying is obviously enough to make her sick to her stomach. If she didn't look queasy, I don't know who did. Of course, Hillary just responded easily.
Fighting for women's health care and paid family leave and equal pay is playing the woman card, then deal me in.
Hillary's a grown-up. She can handle the situation. What I don't understand, I understand charging somebody with playing the female or the women card is normal and sundry. I mean, that happens all the time. Gina Raimondo plays it all the time. Hillary plays it all the time. And charging them with that is, I think, fair game in politics. But suggesting that if she were a man, if she were a man, she wouldn't have 5% is a stupid hypothetical. It's an unprovable notion, and it makes him look like he's just making it up as he goes along. It's just intellectually vapid. Never mind, on a political level, why don't you just poke the bear that is about to sink you anyway? Because women in this country, I know a lot of women don't like Hillary. I get that. But you know what? You go into the female dugout and you start talking about women's issues like that, guess what? They'll back Hillary just to spite you. Who consults this guy? Oh, that's right, nobody, because he knows everything. In the meantime, Ted Cruz and Carly are doing their thing.
This is the fight of our time. And I believe Ted Cruz is the man to lead that fight. 'Cause we travel on the bus all day, we get to play.
Donald had a response to that.
Cruz can't win. What's he doing picking vice presidents? Can't win. Can't win.
And Carly can't sing. Holy moly. We'll just leave that there. It is an unusual move, by the way. But this is a very unusual campaign, don't you think? All right, the Providence budget is an eyesore. It's just one problem after the next. Headlines will confirm that for you. And here's a quick summary of what the mayor of Providence is trying to dig out of.
And it's equally imperative that our neighborhoods are safe.
In Jorge Alorza's second budget address as mayor of Providence, he's calling to expand the police academy to 60 cadets. That's double what was proposed.
This capacity will allow us to deploy more bicycle units, bring back foot patrols.
That's wonderful news, and having another 60 police officers at the end of the training and having them on the streets, we can do so much more.
For the fire department, the mayor says the application process is opening for an academy for 80 new firefighters,
which will replenish a number of recent and anticipated retirements.
Last year, the city budgeted to create a new fire academy, but the mayor says back then it relied on a federal grant they applied for and never got.
This year, we're also applying for a federal grant, but we know that we have to make this investment anyhow.
By the way, the reason there's so many retirements and people quitting the fire department is because they hate their job. This move from 4 units to 3 units and the whole rigmarole that's in the court has caused the fire department morale in Providence to be at an all-time low. I don't know what kind of folks are going to apply for a job that everybody inside the job says they hate, and it's killing them. So, Mayor, fix that or the city's in trouble. Your financial plan hinges on surviving that lawsuit. The chances are as good as John Kasich winning the Republican nomination right now. Probably not very high. Or actually, he might pull that off. Who knows? You know what it is? I'll give you something different. Your chances of surviving that financially are as good as me going out and shooting 67 on the golf course tomorrow. That I can guarantee you, based on the way it's going, is not going to happen. Car tax is part of this whole thing. If there's some good news for the city of Providence, some 20,000 people reportedly will be impacted by this. Yeah, a car tax break of sorts. Man, are we beggars. How about peanuts for the monkeys here? Roll it.
That means that if your car is valued at less than $2,000, you pay no taxes.
Yay! You know, this is Don Carcieri's gift to Rhode Island. He thought municipalities would be able to survive this. They didn't. They pulled state aid back in Don's day and lowered the threshold of car tax waiver from $6,000 to $500 minimally, and most towns bid on it. Providence was at $1,000, now they're at $2,000. Do you know what that actually means? You just pay your bill, right? Or you don't. That means that up to $2,000 of value, you don't have to pay any tax on your car. Wow, what a gift. All right, so make sure you just drive junk around the city of Providence so you won't have to pay any taxes. For those of us who are trying to, and this means most of us, are trying to, drive some set of wheels that is valuable, I mean, that makes us feel better and, is economized and all that kind of stuff, maybe we could start begging, and it's overtime that we do, that we just take Massachusetts' plan. Massachusetts plan taxes you $25 on $1,000 of value. And the value is not assessed by somebody who says, hey, you don't clean your car or vacuum it or wash it. It's just how many years have you owned it. And it goes from 100% down to 10%, and it's really easy, and all we have to do is copy it. I saw that one. All right, let's get to the issue of the day. By the way, the car tax thing just drives me out of my mind. It is just sitting there as a tax reform opportunity, and it's just borrow it. The Burrillville power plant is a conversation not only in Burrillville but in the surrounding communities. I think it's a statewide conversation on X number of levels. Here's some of the what we call the website PowerPoint. There you go, PowerPoint for the Clear River Energy Center. Clear River, right? Yes. John Niland is the development director for the company that is going to build this. John, welcome.
Thanks, Dan. It's my pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you. You work for the company on a development basis, which means what?
My role is to go out and find opportunities to develop thermal powered plants, solar, energy storage in and around really across the United States, but my focus is really on the eastern seaboard, what we call the Eastern Interconnect.
Give me the short executive summary on what this power plant project is all about.
There's a tremendous need in New England. There's been recently announced about 4,000 megawatts of existing generation that's going to retire by 2019. There's another 6,000 megawatts that has essentially reached its design life and will retire in the near future. The grid operator, the New England ISO, has stated this in many public records. So that total, that 10,000 megawatts, that represents about a third of the generating capacity in New England that has to be replaced.
So translation is, there's juice in the system, there will be less juice in the system, and you want to put the juice back into the system.
You need to replace the old units that are either retiring or going to retire. And in doing so with a modern plant like this, that's going to be the most efficient plant in New England, it's going to help improve the overall system reliability, system performance. And this technology, there's other it's a combined cycle plant. There are other combined cycle plants in New England. This is really now state of the art.
Don't know what that means.
Oh, so what that means, that's the most efficient way to produce power using a fossil fuel. It's a gas turbine that you capture the exhaust heat from the gas turbine, you generate steam with that and put it in a steam turbine. That's a combined cycle. Again, it's the most efficient way to produce power. It also has a very high degree of flexibility. And the goal is for the region to actually try to incorporate more renewables. And as you do that, you need to have facilities like this that can ramp up and down and start quickly and do all those things so that when the wind is blowing or not, or the sun goes behind a cloud, and you get these variations in the power output that you would expect to see from increased renewables, this plant will help be able to accommodate that.
All right. Did we show the picture of the plant yet? I know it rolled on the website. There it is. They always look so pretty in the drawings, don't they? When we come back, we'll show you some of the opposition from the community and have the company man respond. Don't go anywhere.
So it's not just a Burrillville issue anymore. This is in direct conflict with the Resilient Rhode Island Act. The Resilient Rhode Island Act was a law signed by Governor Chafee in 2014. It became law. It's public policy now. And as public policy, even though the law doesn't have any teeth or any restrictions on it in terms of regulatory authority, it's public policy. With this power plant alone and all the other facets of this power plant combined, because it's not just the generation of electricity, it's the 2 million gallon oil tank, it's the ammonia tank, it's putting electricity on the grid. All of those contribute to this thing called climate change.
One of the objections, Paul Roselli is the land grant guy up there in Burrillville. The overall environmental concern that people in Burrillville have, your response to it is what?
The plant is, as I said earlier, is going to be one of the most efficient plants. It'll be one of the cleanest fossil fuel plants in the region. And when you are able to put this plant into the region, into the system, the actual net effect of the emissions in the region, the emissions go down. Even with our emissions, there's a reduction in emissions. And the reason for that is because we're going to be displacing, the other older, more polluting plants that are out there operating. And so, you're, in essence, you're modernizing the system, with a much more efficient plant. The other thing I think Mr. Roselli was talking about was the Resilient Rhode Island Act, in that, the act is trying to set up I think it's called the Climate Change Coordinating Council, in order to try to enact, some regulations around that. I think one of the main goals of that is to look at ways to reduce emissions, not only in Rhode Island, but on a regional basis. And really the only way that's going to be accomplished is through added renewables coming into the region, into New England. And you have to have a mix of generation that has the capability to let more renewables come in. And that's what this facility does for the region.
Okay, you're going to hear from other folks during the course of the show here who are kind of focused on some of these environmental and quality of life issues. Let me ask you about a couple of things that I've read. Truck traffic could increase significantly, right, to the plant, because you're going to be changing fuel sourcing to oil, correct, in a couple of months period of time during the course of a winter, and the truck traffic is a concern for the folks there. Address that.
Yeah, so the fuel, the project will have this, we call it a dual fuel capability. So we'll have the ability to burn oil, but that ability is really only there in the event that natural gas isn't available. So this is something that really the
projection's a couple of months, right?
No, it's more like maybe a couple of days a year. In fact, we
that's
looked
all?
at, yeah, that's it. We have the permit that we're asking for is up to 30 days per year. That's sort of just to help, if something, unknown happens. But when you look at the times that the natural gas is not available, it really only happens on the very cold days of the year. This past winter, there wouldn't have been any days on oil. Last year, when we had the polar vortex, it was probably something on the order of about 5 to 10. Because what happens with the gas supply during those very cold periods is that the local gas distribution companies, they have the priority right to take the gas and use it for home heating and things of that nature.
Talking about the water supply that you intend to use, by accounts to me, is already contaminated.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
They're freaking out about that in town. Freaking out.
Well, it was contaminated back in 2001
right.
by an underground leaking.
Your guys
gasoline.
didn't do it, but now you're going to use water that has not been resolved.
The town and Rydam tried to clean it up back in the early 2000s, and one of the things that they found, it was very expensive for them to do it, and they couldn't afford to do it. The treatment that we're proposing to do, really what we're proposing to do is pay to have it cleaned up. because the Pasco Utility District couldn't really afford to do it. They couldn't pass that rate on to their ratepayers. The town couldn't afford to do it.
So is that what you're going to do? You're going to clean it up?
We're going to pay for installation of the treatment system that'll clean up that water. The well
So
was
that
shut
which is
down.
vaporized, steam and
No.
all of that is not going to be contaminated?
No, it's not
Why
going to
would
be
the
contaminated.
people in Burrillville, and again, I'm not the one who's on the street every day trying to investigate this from an opposition point of view, so forgive me for the stupid question. Why would the people in Burrillville, given your very clear and succinct answer to my question, be walking around thinking that the water will continue to be contaminated? That source is contaminated and you'll be using it and steam will come out and all sorts of bad stuff's going to be in the air.
I think, developing a power plant is something that's, pretty complicated. It's not in people's everyday experience. I've been doing it for 30 years, and, I think when you get into different technology or technological topics, some people, it's not something that they quickly grasp onto.
Well, you know what?
understand.
I'm pretty stupid when it comes to. I mean, I love guys like you. You remind me of my dad. Love the technology, can roll off your tongue, Dad. But truth of the matter is that I'm pretty stupid when it comes to this stuff. And I get. Guess what? We're going to fix it first. I mean, I get that. It's really simple. We're going to clean it up. Why don't they know that? Have you made that clear?
Well, we've tried to make that clear. We try to make that clear on our website. We've had a couple of open houses. We've tried to provide information to people. I think there are some people out there that are just, against, a power plant, in general.
Yeah,
or the
but
use of natural
fabricating
gas.
opposition doesn't need to help your credibility. So
Okay.
Tomorrow on the radio, we'll talk more about this, that aspect of it. When we come back, we'll talk about the business aspect of this whole thing with the town, with the investors, all of that. Stay with us.
The pollution, environmental, health impacts. I've had asthma since I was born next door to the house that I live in now, since I was little. A lot of people around the area have COPD, asthma, a lot of irritation, eye irritation, nose irritation, because of all the volatile compounds that come out of the compression station.
Right, so there's previous projects there that impact Kathy. She's Kathy Martley, one of the lead opposition folks, one of the folks that went to the State House and was going to sit in until the governor changed her mind in support of this whole thing. We have a headline there that indicates that the governor has been supportive, and we'll talk about that in just a second and the entire process to get this thing done. I want to talk to you about the process period. In fact, Jess, we have a planning board itinerary that is hard to read unless you got 72 inches on your television, but April, the application was due for pre-application, and it goes all the way down to July. At the end of the day, the planning board will make a recommendation to the town of Burrillville. They don't have the jurisdiction to say yes or no. And it seems like the town itself doesn't have jurisdiction to say yes or no. I guess they could be a royal pain in the water and hold this thing up. But there's a siting board with 3 people from the state who are the DEM director being one of them, who will make this decision. That's correct, right? I'm
Yes.
correct so far?
Yes.
These things are always tricky, and the public gets worried, and transparency is important. And the idea that you wanted to be here to respond, I think is a clear sign that you've got nothing to hide, which is good stuff. What bothers me about process, I don't know that you can answer to it, but you may have an opinion on it, is that the town government sometimes gets a little bit of restrictive in a private part on all this stuff and starts to behave in a way that creates more anxiety. Let me ask a couple questions. Do you guys have a deal right now, a financial deal with the town of Burrillville's council tentative to the approval that the state might provide?
No.
Have conversations have been going on?
We've been discussing with the town about a possible tax deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't talking about brown bags. You weren't going to bribe anybody, right?
No,
Okay.
but, there's no...
Well, I'm glad we got that. Get
there's
that
no
on the
deal
news at
agreed
11
to.
o'clock. Invenergy says they will not brown anybody. In true Rhode Island style, there will be no brown bag. Whew, that's a good one. I'm sorry. It's just some Rhode Island humor. Welcome to Rhode Island. Tax deal, tentative, close to what?
Well, we would be one of the largest we would be the largest taxpayer in the town of Burrillville. The way the discussions that we've had with the town is, they're looking for a sure tax stream, if you will, over a period of time, 20 years, that would be, really set in stone, if you will. The agreement would probably include some other payments to the town for,
You want to throw a number out there?
For the permitting process that they have to go through, we have to make payments to them over a series of years. That is about, right now we're talking somewhere in the order of about $2.5 to $2.9 million, not including any tax payments.
Annually? Or no, that's a lump sum.
That's for during,
And
during
what
the
kind of annual
construction
revenue?
period.
You
And
ballpark?
then annually for the taxes, we're looking at something that it would escalate over time, but it would start out roughly around 3.6 million, and then go up from there
Annually?
annually.
Pays for a lot of school books. Here's the thing. The townspeople weren't even clear that the town was negotiating with you guys. And again, I don't know that you have to answer to that, but in my observation from 36,000 feet being a spectator, it bothers me when a community isn't advised that a town body is going to enter into negotiations, and it's only learned that negotiations have been going on. That's the kind of stuff that creates the creepy crawl of distrust. Do you have a thought about that?
Well, I think, our experience with the town has been that, they're very sophisticated, actually. I mean, they do have another power plant in town, and they went through a similar tax negotiation, my understanding is, with them just recently. And, so I think they're very adept at, understanding and valuing, projects like this.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about even getting into the process. The numbers are, I'm ambivalent about the numbers. When I hear it, sounds like a good chunk of change. When did they engage you in a conversation about the real numbers? Remember?
When we
it's not a court of law, but ballpark. Do you remember when they started?
It was probably late last year. So.
That would be new news to the residents, I think, and I think that's part of what's bothering them. Also, tell me about the mechanics of this. And by the way, you're going to come on the radio tomorrow, and we'll have more time to dig into the depth of this conversation. But you have investors. You go out and you raise dough based on your projection of the delivery that you can provide into the megawatt world there, right, in order to be able to build this thing. How deep are you in already with the investors? And if this thing went south, what kind of belly up feeling is that going to be?
The money that Invenergy has committed to date is really its own money. We haven't have any investor money involved.
So you're not locked into outside contracts right now. Have you taken on outside contracts in terms of just projected use of electricity or providing electricity?
No, I mean, the project has to get its permits before you can really secure
That's another
financing.
bugaboo in town. They think that you've got contracts with investors out there based on megawatt projections. So that's categorically untrue.
That's correct.
Huh.
We put this up at our risk. It's developing a power project,
So
in
if
New
the
England or
siting board
elsewhere
says,
is
you know what,
highly risky.
sorry, John, nice idea, but ain't going to happen. It's your money. You're not in court with some other investor that had some kind of guarantee.
The way the siting board process works is, if they come out with a decision, for or against, the folks who are involved in the process have the ability to appeal. So if they were to rule against us, we could likely appeal, but if they ruled against you, I think your chances of success are probably remote.
It's all your dough, though. It's all the company's dough. That's it. Pretty clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Weekdays noon to 3. 1 o'clock, we'll continue the conversation on WPRO. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Hey, Charlie Hall is in here tomorrow night. So that'll be the end of my career. We'll see you then and tomorrow on the radio at noon. For more Invenergy, that'll be exciting.